Hi everyone, thank you for taking the time to attend today. My name is Annette Joseph. I started Diverse and Equal 3 years ago to increase the number of people from diverse backgrounds in tech, especially in the North. So up until about 4 months ago, I worked full-time as an Agile coach and delivery manager while running the business on the side. And I found that as my career progressed, the rooms, meetings and conferences that I had access to had hardly anyone else that looked like me. So I started Diverse and Equal to change that. We are a tech for good organisation. Our aim is to use tech as a vehicle to create a fair society for everyone by equipping people from underserved backgrounds with the skills to fulfil crucial roles while empowering organisations to embed cultures that embrace and celebrate difference. So in June, I wrote an article triggered by the murder of George Floyd about my experiences as a Black woman born and raised in Britain. People of all races reached out to me to ask how they might help, so the BlackTech GoFundMe was launched to look specifically at the impact of tech on Black people and Black communities. The data around Black people's numbers and experiences, specifically in the tech space, doesn't exist. We don't even have an accurate figure of how many Black people are actually working in the industry. But when data around gender, pay and progression was collated, it helped to fuel discussions about equity across all industries. So our goal is for this research to have a similar impact. Before we go any further though, I'm going to issue a bit of a trigger warning. There are some uncomfortable truths in this presentation. So if you're serious about change, becoming uncomfortable with discomfort is a must. If something comes up for you, it might help to acknowledge the feeling and just kind of park it to revisit it later. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to start off with an intro to the team, then we're going to run through the research, and then we're going to do a Q&A and then talk about next steps. So the BlackTech GoFundMe raised £5,740 thanks to generous contributions from advocates, many of you on the call today. Thank you. These funds enabled us to pull together a team to conduct this research. I'm going to introduce you to Annie.
Hello, my name is Annie. I help marketing and operations at Diverse and Equal. So I've actually spent 10 years in banking, and I also did diversity and inclusion initiatives while I was there. I came across Diverse and Equal in 2018, and when I wanted to work in tech and I was searching around doing my research, I'd actually discovered that there's a lot of work to be done in terms of diversity and equality in tech. So I'm delighted to join this team, be behind the scenes, and to help us achieve our goals.
Oops. And next up, Clara, who is in Brazil.
A warning, fair warning, if you hear people shouting and screaming at one another in the house, like, please forgive me, but the sense of boundaries in this country is just completely different. So, yeah, just be advised. It's not my fault, I promise. Yes, I am in Brazil. I've just arrived. So, yeah, it's all a bit like, oh my God, and I haven't been in a year and a half. So, fantastic. Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Clara. I'm a senior user researcher, and I've been a facilitator and trainer for the Diverse and Equal upskilling program, and also just helping out with the research, really. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about our process together, because I started reflecting about when Annette and I first spoke. I think it was in July, just shortly after I was made redundant from a really cool job in Tech for Good, in an amazing agency in Leeds. And within a week of like thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? I remember that I was speaking to Annette and feeling, oh my God, I can't believe that I've landed like just the most important job of my career. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about it, if that's okay. So we spoke back in July for the first time, I think it was, and that we would work as a duo, as a pair, to upskill and to lead in the research. And we set out to find this person, but after a couple of weeks, our searches had been completely unsuccessful. And I think we managed to find only one person in the whole Northwest, but they were in permanent employment and they were unavailable. And it was like this thought, one Black user researcher in the whole of the Northwest of England. it shocked me, but it shouldn't have, unfortunately, because the tech industry, despite it being fertile ground for innovation and cutting edge everything, basically, is still very unequal and a fledgling when it comes to diversity. So we knew that there were barriers, but we just needed to understand what they were. So during the interview of our sample of 10 people, we started to get a better picture of why there are not near enough Black people in the tech industry. Because it wasn't it wasn't enough just investigating. While we were out researching, we needed to start addressing this very same problem. So we kicked off by choosing 3 very inspiring, passionate people that took a chance on us and started on their own path into the tech industry. And at first, I walked Camilla, Paris, and Reese, which you will meet in a minute, through human-centered design practices. We had a beautiful in-person session in Manchester, a rarity nowadays. It feels like it's just such an outlier to have anything in person. And it was just amazing to bond as a team. It was absolutely unforgettable. And we had experienced and passionate user researchers from the Co-op and Digital and NHS Digital, coaching, facilitating sessions, and also mentoring the trio, namely Kalika, Vicky, Jamie, Karine, Katarina, and Mark, whom and Reese also from And Digital, whom I cannot absolutely thank enough for all of your support. We had Phil Haskett talking about consent, so an absolute all-star team of people, and we had obviously the interviews following a learn by doing approach, where the trio experienced the role of user research in real life. And as the sessions progressed, I gradually stepped down from the teacher position. I acted more as a guide, as these 3 individuals became invaluable team members. The discussions when writing the discussion guide, oh my God, just remembering it makes me actually have goosebumps, because I had been working alone for such a long time. And just to be in an amazing team was one of the best feelings of like my whole career. And I don't say this lightly. How to synthesize the data and how to present our findings everything has been so stimulating. Everyone has been just absolutely amazing. And well, as the only white person in an all Black team, I've been practicing the craft of shutting up and listening a lot. And I've understood that a lot of subtext from participants' interviews I couldn't relate to or even detect, because no level of empathy can ever replace lived experience and generational trauma. No one knows everything or has lived through everything. And that's why diversity and inclusion is so necessary when designing anything. So that was a little bit about this experience, which has been just absolutely wonderful. So I hope you enjoy the presentation today, and I'll leave you to the magnificent trio.
Thank you, Clara. Thanks for logging on, and we'll enjoy the beach. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye. So now I'm going to introduce you to the trio, our trainees, starting with Camila.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm Camila. I currently work, or I'm currently transitioning from the charity sector. So at the moment I work as an operations coordinator for a charity that deals with homelessness. That's in Manchester. And when I came across the taster sessions for Diverse and Equal, you know, it was like almost like a light bulb went off. It was just, I had to go for it. So I come from a media studies background, and that's where my degree is. I also worked in education, but I was always struggling to find, okay, what is the career path for me? And I think when I saw this taster session, I thought, you know what, I love research, I love tech, I love media. And I thought it's about time that, I got my career started. And I really wanted an opportunity to actually make a difference in terms of my career, and having a career that really would enable me to make people's lives better, but also something that I was really passionate about. So this project that we've been working on, it couldn't have been more timely. Yeah, so that's just a bit about me, and it's just been such an amazing experience. And yeah, hopefully I'll tell you a bit about what I've learned so far, but just to give you an overview of myself, yeah, thanks for Thanks for having me, Annette.
Thank you. Paris?
Hi everybody, good afternoon. My name's Paris. So at the moment I work in financial services and I have done for most of my career. The year of 2020 left me at a bit of a crossroads professionally because my current workplace went into administration. And of course I couldn't ignore as a Black person the worldwide protests around Black Lives Matter and the murder of George Floyd. So I also wanted to feel like, I was working in a space that spoke to the need for change. And I think everyone shares that need, for change. So I essentially found out about the taster sessions on a Facebook group, and the main headline was that you don't need technical skills for tech, and I was just my mind was blown from that moment, and I was just interested to hear more. And in the taster session itself, I met Reese and Camila and a few other people who were interested in being user researchers specifically. And I was like, oh, you get to ask people about your day and get paid. It sounds good to me. And since then, we haven't stopped since go. And I'm just pleased to be here, through my presence as a ethnic minority within the tech industry, contributing to the change, but also the important research that we've specifically done. So yeah, thanks for listening to us, and hope you enjoy.
Thank you. And Reese?
Hi everyone, I'm Reese. Firstly, I'd like to say I'm very proud to be a part of this and do this work with everyone. But my previous roles have included HR and consultancy work with a strong focus on understanding people behaviour and motivations. I joined Diverse and Equal, their user research taster session, firstly out of curiosity. Who were they and what is a user researcher? This curiosity then turned into an eagerness to help the drive for equality, especially where Black lives are concerned.
Thank you. Right, so we'll move into the research then. So over the years, there's been many comprehensive studies commissioned by government organisations, academia and NGOs about the injustices experienced by Black people living in the UK, the most recent being the Joint Commission on Human Rights. So instead of reinventing the wheel, we set our research within this wider context, pulling at the thread of tech to examine if similar experiences occur within the tech industry, and if so, why. Last month, the Joint Committee on Human Rights report, Black People, Racism and Human Rights, covering the topics of health, criminal justice and immigration, found that 75% of Black people in the UK do not believe their human rights are equally protected compared to white people. The McGregor-Smith review, Race in the Workplace, published in 2017, focused on the experiences of Black and Asian employees. Three main statements stood out. So 72% of respondents agree that Black and Asian people face discrimination in their everyday lives. There is discrimination and bias at every stage of an individual's career and even before it begins. And all BME groups are more likely to be overqualified than white ethnic groups, but white employees are more likely to be promoted than all other groups. The impact of this lack of full representation of Black and Asian individuals across the labour market through improved participation and progression is estimated to be £24 billion a year, which represents 1.3% of our GDP. £24 billion because of discrimination. So these quantitative surveys, they look at large amount of data and they give us a picture of what is happening. We use qualitative methods to explore experiences within tech specifically and provide insight into why these things might be happening. Over to Reese for the findings.
Each interview began with this question so that we could understand the context of people's backgrounds and experiences. In our participant group, we had a mix of genders, nationalities, neurological differences, and more. Even though this research is based around the experiences of Black people, it's important for us all to understand that Black people are not a monolith. For example, there are 54 countries in Africa and 13 countries and many more islands in the Caribbean, each with different traditions and ways of life. Three themes will be explored today. One, how a lack of exposure to the tech industry impacts people's views on the sector. 2, the effects of a lack of representation of Black people within the tech industry. And 3, what role recruitment bias plays in all of this. So theme 1, exposure. We asked our participants a set of questions around their experiences of the UK tech industry. Quote, you have to put the midnight oil in and spend all of the time getting a qualification, and spending thousands is not going to make any difference because you've got to get the experience. There's a lack of industry knowledge which prevents participants from entering the tech industry due to perceptions on the amount of tech exposure and education they require. Whether attempting to enter the tech industry at the beginning of their career or transitioning from another industry, a common theme arose that participants were convinced they needed tech-related experience. Not having tech-related education and qualifications unnecessarily delays and wrongly prevents people from entering the world of tech. There is a strong belief that you need an academic education and have to achieve excellent results to enter tech. A few of our participants had recently started working in tech. They emphasized that networking was an important part of finding new job opportunities. One participant even traveled to America to network, as well as going to Leeds for an NUX camp, specifically to find jobs that might not be posted online. Another participant said, if you don't network, then you're not going to get the best jobs, are you? However, participants mentioned feeling uncomfortable at networking events. In environments where representation was low, it was more difficult to find similarities and build meaningful connections. Quote, a lot of them are big gamers, so conversations will drift into gaming. They will not take you seriously if you don't have a gaming PC and look as if you were in the wrong place. Black people who aren't connected with tech are unaware of how to get into this industry. We found that small networks and lack of exposure to the industry reduces the number of pathways in, through not having the knowledge or connections to actually find out about the opportunities in organizations, or through perception that a lot of qualifications are the way to get in.
Theme 2, representation. We asked our participants to tell us about the impact a lack of representation has on them. Quote, I can always get technical knowledge, but if diversity is not there, there's not much I can do about it. Or just be the token Black person in the workplace. Even with the skills necessary for the job, Black people in tech are often alone within their departments or organizations due to the lack of diversity in the industry. Being the only Black person in a space, especially if that space isn't inclusive, tests resilience, having a negative effect on the Black employees' sense of belonging and their ability to be themselves. A lack of representation creates boundaries which implicitly tell people where they can or can't be. Being the only one often means that race is seen as a factor for failure. When you're learning, you're going to feel like you're making lots of mistakes. This can be exaggerated if you're the only person looking like yourself. You don't want to give the perception that you're somehow less skilled or less able because of this other factor. Because of the lack of representation, tech workplaces aren't seen as safe spaces. We asked our participants to describe their various experiences within the tech recruitment process, and we found that this theme covered 2 different categories, systemic and personal bias. I'll start with bias in systems and processes, then hand over to Camila to talk you through the impact of personal bias. Job descriptions play a large role in preventing suitable candidates from applying for jobs in the first place. This is not only true for Black people. Research has shown that women will only apply for a job if they fit 100% of the criteria, whereas men will apply when they fit about 60%. The use of industry jargon in job ads greatly reduced the pool of underrepresented candidates, even if they are more than capable of doing the role. The process seems broken. Even jobs that target people from underrepresented backgrounds have ended up screening out those very applicants. All the issues mentioned earlier around the impact of a lack of representation in the industry are multiplied at interview stage. As humans, we're built to gravitate towards people that are similar. All male, all white interview panels are more likely to hire white males rather than someone they view as different. Systems and processes reinforce personal biases during recruitment. Bias that is built into systems and processes puts obstacles in the way of Black candidates even before they've applied for a role, and often all the way throughout the application process. A lack of diversity within recruitment makes this bias easy to miss and unlikely to be challenged, even if it is flagged.
So because we collected so much feedback around the theme of recruitment bias, we've broken this part down into 3 main areas. And the first one is that Black people or Black applicants don't trust that data collection during the application process won't work against them. The lack of diversity in the tech industry at the moment shows that the data that is collected by employers is not being used to reduce the barriers of entry. And the majority of participants were distrustful and suspicious of data they collected or that was collected of them during the application process. So without this clear explanation of why data is being collected, Black people worry that their ethnicity may work against them. Ultimately, this reinforces the belief that workplaces aren't seen as safe spaces, and it can discourage Black people from pursuing careers in tech. Recruiters appear to filter out ethnic sounding names. And in a 2017 study conducted by the Nuffield College, researchers found that applicants from minority ethnic backgrounds have to send out more applications to get a positive response from an employer than a person of British origin. So one quote says, I'm originally Nigerian. I don't know if you can tell from the convoluted last name I've got. And many Black people are acutely aware that a key part of their identity could be perceived as an obstacle. Their names can immediately identify them as other. And in this Nuffield study, Black people with Nigerian names had to send out 120% more applications for highly skilled jobs, even though all applicants gained their qualifications in the UK and sent out identical application forms to their white counterparts. And in Manchester in particular, a study by the Department of Work and Pensions found that BME applicants had to send out twice as many applications to receive a positive response. In instances where Black people have British sounding names, they are less likely to face discrimination at the CV filtering stage. Although this means fewer hurdles in the initial stages, the obstacles reappear at the interview when their face is revealed. And both of these quotes here are from the same participant. Recruiters do not see value in investing time to provide constructive feedback to Black candidates, since feedback is generally not given to many people after an interview. And as Black people are already underrepresented, the little time spent giving people feedback is more likely to go to applicants that the recruiters see value in.
Oh no, I think we've lost her. Camila?
Apologies for that. My Zoom just decided to reconnect. So let me just continue where I left off. So as I was saying, much of the feedback that was given had this emptiness to it that often doesn't make sense to the candidate based on their knowledge or performance during the interview. If you're not getting feedback saying you could have spoken about this technical aspect a bit more, or deepen your knowledge about that thing, or continue to do these things because you did them really well, it makes it a lot harder to get that first foot in the door. And participants felt that gaining feedback from interviews was an important tool to make their pathway into the industry quicker and easier. Personal biases creep into the recruitment process and prevent Black candidates from entering the industry. And these findings echo the Guardian's 2019's Bias in Britain study, which found UK levels of discrimination unchanged since the 1960s. The Deputy Director of Runnymede, Dr. Zubaida Haq, said, "It's not just covert racism or unconscious bias that we need to worry about, it's overt and conscious racism, where applicants are getting shortlisted on the basis of their ethnicity and or name. It's clear that race relation legislation is not sufficient to hold employers to account. There are no real consequences for employers of racially discriminating in subtle ways, but for BME applicants or employees, it means a higher level of unemployment, lower wages, poorer conditions, and less security in work life."
So, and breathe. You may have found much of what we've discussed today upsetting. I think I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of head nodding from the Black people in the audience as well. I remember when I started doing this type of research within organizations, so many emotions surfaced, and in a strange way, I found it quite comforting. It was comforting to know that there wasn't actually something wrong with me, that this was a pattern. It made me feel less alone. So for our allies here today, recruiters, hiring managers, executives, it may be the first time you've heard information like this. Your mind right now is probably searching for ways to refute or deny. And if this is the case for you, know that this is normal. Don't be too hard on yourself. This is what our minds are designed to do, to protect us. This information challenges what we believe about our society and who we think we are. So let's just pause and take a breath. Now, imagine for a moment how it might feel to experience these things, to know that no matter how smart you are or how hard you work in our industry, which is so exciting because it's the realm of possibility, isn't it? Imagine that if you're Black, the chances of finding a place in this industry where you can fully belong, where you can fully be yourself, is minimal. Last week, Vimla Apadu and I presented a piece of research we conducted in collaboration with the Greater Manchester Tech Collective on the experiences of people from Black, Asian, and minority ethnic backgrounds in the tech workspace. So people who had faced similar challenges we've discussed here today to get into the industry, only to be faced with obstacles to progression, bullying, and an overall sense that they didn't belong once they actually were in the industry. And although we've explored tech specifically in both of these studies, the issues uncovered ring true in other industries too. In tech though, we have an opportunity to do things differently. We have incredible power over the tools and the services society uses. We have control over the data that's collected and how it's used, who is included and who is not. We dictate what is accepted, what is normalized, what is adopted, because the things we build are everywhere. So if we plug our skills gap by employing diverse talent, create and nurture inclusive spaces where they can thrive, we not only make a difference for our businesses, those gains, potential gains, they're huge, up to 35% increased profit, 50% more innovation, and the ability to be competitive in the global marketplace. We can literally change our society. After hearing what you have today, I hope you're thinking that this change is long overdue. So we'd like to say a massive thank you. A project like this doesn't happen in a vacuum. We'd like to thank our mentors and guest facilitators for sharing your time, your experience, your energy. We could not have done this without you. Vicky Riley, Kalika Agravat, Mark Brannigan, Phil Hesketh, Karine Tardeval, Katerina Martins, Jamie Kane, and Rhys Billington. Thank you so much. And also to our interviewees, thank you for trusting us with your experiences. We promise you that this is just the beginning.
What happens next? So we're going to talk to you about what we plan to do. Tech is the fastest growing industry with salaries 44% higher than other sectors. Actually, I say tech, but these days, almost every business is in the tech sector. If you think of all the ways our lives have changed since the pandemic, how would we even survive without Zoom or Teams or Netflix or Deliveroo? This technology is being created in a vacuum. And what I mean by that is it's being created with people who are seen as different or on the fringes, so they're not involved. So how do we create change? The first way is by changing narrative. As well as research projects like this and the Greater Manchester Tech Collective work, Diverse and Equal has been working with local tech organisations to help them understand the tangible benefits of diversity. The focus on diversity as a business imperative, rather than a nice to have, helps secure buy-in and the focus necessary to create environments where people from diverse backgrounds can thrive. And the second way we can create change is by changing the talent makeup. So through our diverse tech training arm, we plan to upskill people with transferable skills from underrepresented backgrounds. So we've been conducting a load of taster sessions this year, and the latest ones that we've just started were yesterday. So it's our first foray into data science. So we've created a 3-part series where people will be introduced to the basics of working with data. Then they'll be taken through the different careers and speaking to people who actually work in the field. And then we're actually going to get our hands dirty and try and show them some actual practical methods. And this is the way that our workshops usually work. We always have a practical element because we always want people to learn by doing. So we do have some further sessions coming throughout the next year. So we're going to, from January onwards, we're going to be releasing a set of taster sessions all around agile immersion. So these will be focused on roles that are not necessarily technically based in tech, but that people with transferable skills who are already working can easily transfer into. So these events are already live and we'll start advertising them in the next coming weeks. So if anybody in the audience or if there's anyone who knows anybody wants to encourage people to join, please encourage them to follow us on social media or join our mailing list, and we'll keep you updated about these events. So through these events, people like myself and the trio who know nothing about tech come there to learn from people who are actually working in the industry. We get a little taster of what it's like to work with people practically. And we get an explanation of perhaps the qualifications and the paths, working paths that, you know, steps that people would need to take before they actually apply for work. So I can see someone has mentioned in the chat, and I think they're from a recruitment background, about showing interest in the industry and showing interest in the company. So at these immersion sessions, these are the type of things that we encourage people to do. So once they're ready to go to the different companies, they're actually a stronger, more confident candidates. So in February, when we kick off our first Agile Immersion Bootcamp, the issues highlighted in this research will be the focus. So during the course, we'll focus on ways to alleviate these issues using agile ways of working, design thinking techniques in a multidisciplinary team. Thanks to grants from Manchester City Council and WEA, we're able to provide this training for free to people from underrepresented backgrounds. We have lots of other programs coming up at bootcamp, so please follow us on LinkedIn and social media, as I've already mentioned, to stay up to date.
Now I'd like to open up to questions. While we're waiting for questions, I'm going to ask the trio what it felt like to be, what did it mean to you to be part of this research? What have you learned? And yeah, what did it feel to you to be part of this research? Let's go first.
So something I learned was specifically around the interview method of collecting the data and insights. And it was just about allowing the participants the space to explore their own pain points and uncover their own pain points. And I think it's, I guess, counterproductive for a lot of us. If you see someone that needs help, you want to jump in. So that skill is crucial to be, being a user researcher. And that's one of the main things that I've learned. I've learned so much, though. I can't really, obviously explain it all here, but that's one of the main things that I'm going to take forward as well. And what it meant for me to be offered this opportunity, I just knew that it was a very unique opportunity. If things didn't transpire, they did in a way in 2020. I just don't know which other way I would have been in these rooms with all these amazing mentors from Co-op and Digital, NHS Digital, and I'm just really thankful. And given the wider landscape, I just hope that I guess my presence and the presence of other people like me will help bring the change that we all want to see.
It's been such a great experience, the whole training process. I've learned so much about user research, and really having the opportunity to do it where you're learning on the job. So a bit like an apprenticeship, you're straight in there and you learn the research methods and then you just implement them straight away. And I think, it's so great to learn in that way because you actually see how something is supposed to be done. So as I said, I have a media studies degree, but for most of my career, I haven't got into tech because I just didn't think that I had what it takes. And actually what the bootcamp has shown me is that a lot of my transferable skills that I had, all I needed was that extra knowledge and the confidence to actually see how things were done on a day-to-day basis. So, as Clara said earlier, we devised our own discussion guides. We conducted our own interviews, which was nerve-wracking, I must say. It was very scary. But, we were straight in there. And I think sometimes you need that push. You need to be in at the deep end and just taking all your knowledge and putting it to use straight away. So yeah, as I said, I don't think without this opportunity I would be here. I probably would not have even considered getting into tech because I wouldn't know where to start. And this just provides that opportunity to actually get your foot in the door. So yeah, so it's been amazing and I've learned so much. So
yeah, I've learned the importance of user research, and that project should never be seen as fully complete. So as a researcher, you go through discovering, designing, and delivering what people need, but people's needs are going to change because their desires, their behaviors, the world around them changes. So the product that you created a year ago is going to go through so many constant iterations. So a project should never be seen as fully complete. How I feel proud to be a part of this. Hearing a lot of the experiences from our interviewees, although difficult, for some of them I was able to relate to. And for me, that acted as a motivator for change. So I'm very happy that I'm here and can do my best to make a positive change.
Thank you.
There's a couple of questions around whether you're surprised by any of the findings during the research around that realm. Was there anything that surprised you?
So for me, I would say no. I wouldn't say surprised. There were some revelations that were made. I need to talk about the two pieces of research that I've done, because I was involved in the Greater Manchester Tech Collective, and the two kind of like married up. So I would say that there were some themes and some coping mechanisms that came to the fore that I didn't recognize before. One of those things was about people from, well, the Greater Manchester Tech Collective was for people of colour, so it wasn't just Black, but it was around people of colour like overcompensating at work just so that they can belong. So like actually working harder and pride in, like, you know, going above and beyond as a coping mechanism, and fully expecting, like, it's almost like it's they had this, they were willing to pay the price of being stereotyped and left out, and sometimes a little bit of bullying in order to work in the industry, because they felt they didn't belong. So that kind of theme, and how I've done that in my life, that kind of came out. So there was some, didn't surprise me, but just some things became clearer, I would say.
Okay, there's a couple of questions about how you plan to disseminate the research into the wider Tech Recruitment Centre, or even encourage people to get involved with the research in the future.
So we're going to be creating a white paper and infographics and various other bits and pieces from the research. It's going to take us a little while though, because we've got quite a lot on at the moment. But we aim to get that out beginning of next year. And in terms of getting involved, so we've got programs and further training coming up. So people who are professionals in this area, or who could serve as mentors, please just contact us, because we're always looking for people to help out. So the more the merrier.
And following along the similar lines, did we get any resistance from the industry when we were trying to set this up?
Not less, I don't think we've asked the industry. We didn't really ask. Like, more of a ask for forgiveness rather than permission kind of person. You know, we didn't ask. We just set it up. It was something, we saw a gap. It needed to be done, so we did it. The Greater Manchester Tech Collective work, we worked with Barclays ThoughtWorks, Noisy Cricket, the Federation, Co-op Foundation, in order to do that work, and those organisations, and Code Computer Love as well, and Innovate Her. Those organisations were fully on board. But I don't think it's a matter of, you know, we work in tech. we just get stuff done. It's kind of who we are.
And as you've been conducting this research and looking around at other pieces of research, do you find any examples of companies doing better than most in this area so that other companies can follow? Are there any particular companies that you identified?
People ask that question a lot. There are instances of best practice, the Tech Talent Charter, BITC have good instances of best practice, but it depends on your company. So there is no one size fits all. There's no tick a box, we've done that. There's none of that. It's all about looking to see where you are and being honest about where you are, and then pulling together something that fixes or brings people along for the ride. That's really important. Getting your current employees on board and getting them bought in is they're going to be the ones that make or break the program. So that's really key. But there is no one size fits all. It depends where you are, what your company is doing, what your environment is like, and the only way really to know that is by doing research and doing an audit and really asking questions. And it has to be anonymous, and it has to be out an external company, because you ask the question and then it's not anonymous. You need to find out where you are first before you can really put together a program. There isn't a one size fits all.
And this question is maybe particularly for the trio. How did you guys manage to maintain objectivity and look after your mental health at the same time whilst doing this research?
I'll start by saying that Clara is a great teacher. She's amazing, and she really conducted the first interview that we did, and so we really learned from her about just really listening to the participants, not putting your opinion across, not showing too much emotion, so you don't want to skew the way a participant answers a question, essentially. But I will say that it has been difficult, and I think it's been a really difficult year, among many difficult years. But for me in particular, this has been one where I've really felt overwhelmed with the amount of, I guess, just information about Black experience, and in a way, it kind of made me examine my own experiences, which, it can be hard to kind of look back on what you've experienced yourself. But I think ultimately, it's for the good of Black people and diversity. And in the long run, I feel like, it's so many people have sacrificed more than I have to get people or Black people into the positions that they are. And, it's just one small sacrifice that I'm willing to make, and to make a difference for people that come after me. So yeah, that's what I say on that.
I'd say about maintaining mental health, another thing that Clara really pushed us to do is to reflect every day. So to reflect on all of the information that we've learned, all of the experiences that we'd heard for that day, reflect on it and make sense of it. And I think just take it step by step. So that helped me. It was difficult to try and reflect every day. The difficulty I found was actually putting the time in to reflect. But I found even if it was 10 minutes after a long day, that really helped to just make sense of the information I learned. And yeah, that helped me.
Yeah, I would, in terms of, one of the main things I learned, it was about how to keep that space. And I was put in touch with a mentor named Mark, who works for NHS Digital, and he actually, reiterated this need of objectivity to get the answer, the truest answer you can. out of the participants. Louis Theroux is quite a popular documentary maker over here in the UK, and everybody knows him. And even looking at him as an outside example, I just took all these different examples as well as the guidance from Clara to put into myself as a user researcher. We did, I think we conducted 3 interviews each, and felt like veterans. By the end, the truth is, as I say, you have to allow people their own space to explore their own pain points or not, as the case may be. Not everybody's the same. But yeah, it is a challenge to be, with this topic specifically about equality. It's a very difficult topic to address, and I think it's a unique topic in terms of a research project, and I'm privileged to have been a part of that. I think, as I say, I feel like if you can lose your audience if you're unable to kind of balance out the emotional side with the reality of the research. I think that was something that was always in my mind, and it's important to bring people along this journey with you bit by bit. So that was how I maintained my objectivity. And yeah, in terms of mental health, definitely the reflections was something new to me coming into the tech industry. It means that you're really in touch with where you are day by day, not just that appraisal time, 3 times a year, you know what I mean? And that helped me just be really honest with myself. It's something that Annette touched on as well, which is that when these findings come out, you're still shocked by them, even though it's based on lived experience, something you feel, but it also reaffirms that you're not crazy, basically. So it hurts hearing some of these answers, but it also gives you a level of visibility. And I guess that's what we're trying to do here, move the visibility into action to, make sure other people's experiences, Black people's experiences aren't echoed in what we found in this research. So yeah.
Well, thank you. We're getting a couple of questions about recruitment, specifically asking whether, as a result of this research, there's any kind of advice that can be given to either recruiting teams or recruitment firms on what they can do to improve, or any policy advice.
We are going to be doing an agile immersion bootcamp where we put the problems that we've identified into this research in front of a multidisciplinary team, so that those problems will go into that team and the team will work on figuring out some solutions to those problems. So by that program will be finished in March, so we will have a whole raft of potential solutions and ideas by then, and we will keep everybody updated with our progress. So this is just the beginning step. There are some great, like anonymization, diverse interview, anonymization, so that the whole thing with the names doesn't happen, diverse interview panels, those are things that they could do in the interim. But we will be looking at that as well.
So there is a question around, apart from recruitment, is the research looking into BlackTech owned business recruitment, or will we be looking into?
Don't know. It's this research is the beginning of something. It's the beginning of our training, getting people the necessary skills so that they can actually get into roles. And it's the beginning of us getting to the bottom of issues that need to be fixed. But it's the beginning. We don't have all the answers. There's a lot of work to be done. The Race Relations Act came out in 1978. So that's 32 years. Yeah, 32 years of discrimination in this country. It's not going to be fixed by a team of 5 or 6 people. It's a lot of work, and it's going to need a concerted effort and real willingness to make the change. I think facing into the problem and admitting that we have one, that's the first step. Once we can do that, then we can do stuff about it. But that's what this research is meant to do. It's meant to hold a mirror up to our society and say, look at this thing that is happening. We have to do something about this. So the first step. Don't have the answers for all the others, not yet anyway, but we're working on it.
And maybe a question for the trios. During the interviews, did anyone mention that they knew of any Black role models working in tech? And this is mentioned because the theme of exposure was quite interesting. So we wanted to know if anyone knew of any Black tech role models. Did that come up at all in the interviews?
Not that I can recall. Correct me if I'm wrong, Camilla and Reese. You know, it's something we spoke about when we were making a discussion guide. We have this emergence of virtual mentors. I'm sure someone popped into all of your minds when I said that. But yeah, Black people, I don't recall anybody mentioning a Black virtual mentor within the tech industry.
Yes, exposure was something that was explored, and we specifically wanted to find out about networks and how that might play, you know, an impact in career progression and entry into the industry. And we found that a lot of participants didn't necessarily have any mentors. I think one or two participants had, you know, like a coach or a mentor at university, which would help them to sort of prep them with interview skills and such. But beyond that, most of the participants didn't have a mentor. And it was only once they got into the industry that they realized the importance of networking. So that is something that we you know, will take forward and address in the future.
One of the things that came out in the Great Manchester Tech Collective research about mentors and exposure was about parents. It wasn't something that we actually presented back, but we did see a bit of a theme where the people who had graduated and actually gotten into the tech industry had a parent or an aunt or an uncle or somebody in their family that actually talked to them about tech. And that was one of the reasons why that tech was even on their radar. So it happened in our research too. We had one person that had their dad was had studied computer science at university. He was a security officer. So there's like, how do you study computer science when it's such a desired field and end up working as a security guard is one question. And then, but that was how they had become aware of tech, was through their dad pushing them. So that's one of the reasons why we kind of focus on, like a lot of the programs that are around at the moment, focus on people who are really young, focus at school, focus at like college and really young people. A lot of people focus on schools, and while that is amazing, it is great and it's well needed, that pipeline is 5-10 years long. Whereas like there are people right now, like you guys, you know, like have worked, got the transferable skills, really talented, really smart, hundreds, if not thousands of you throughout the country, underemployed, doing stuff that doesn't challenge you, wasting those amazing brains. So if we can take people who are a little bit older, who are already parents or will be parents, we're already making it better for the kids as well. So
how important was it for this piece of work to be led by a Black team, and what impact do you think it had?
I would say in general, whatever the project is, even if it's not a research project specific about Black people's barriers, it's always going to be enlightening to have someone that's, you know, different leading it or involved in it. The more voices, my understanding is, you know, the more voices you have at the table, the better, the more rich your project's going to be, the stronger it's going to be. And I kind of looked at it as what the role of a user experience researcher is. You're bringing voices to the table for consideration that wouldn't necessarily be heard otherwise. So, you know, in my opinion, yeah, it's definitely the case that it's something we need to see, but not just for projects like this, it's whatever project it is, because there's lots of blind spots that, you know, different people don't have. They don't even realize they don't have them.
We call those unknown unknowns when we're working in the team. That's what they are. You can't see them, especially if the team all look the same. You need people from different experiences, which is why I'm so passionate about diversifying tech in general, because without a diverse team, you're just missing so much, and things go to market that are not fit for purpose. Annie, you were going to say something.
I was just going to add, sorry, just to say that from my perspective, because I helped a little bit with the recruitment stage, and actually doing this interview, I know for all of our interviews is not something easy to do, because as Black people in any industry, we do often get asked in-depth questions a lot of the time, and we don't see any action. And over time, that makes us distrust people. And it's important, or it was important, I believe, for the research to be led by Black people, so that there can be that confidence that something would happen towards the end. It's not a guarantee, but I think it was comforting for our interviewees, and certainly made it a little bit easier to recruit them. Do you have any advice for workplaces about how to create a safe space to encourage discussion with our Black employees about their experiences?
So,
just add a little point aside from that. I think what's key is curiosity. So, you know, I can't speak to, more corporate reasons, but I think, you know, as human beings, just being curious about another person's experience speaks volumes. So even if you're not ready to action anything that you've heard today, just being curious about, people that are different to you, no matter what the color is. And I think that creates that trust that, oh, okay, you know, someone's interested to hear what I think. So yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit about, being curious.
I agree with that and disagree with that all at the same time. So, so curiosity is fine when you've got a relationship with somebody. When you already have a relationship, when you already have a bond with somebody, that curiosity is fine. Black people don't always want to talk about what we go through. We just want to come to work and do our job. Yeah. So I know for me, getting into diversity and inclusion, that was a need. I didn't do it because I wanted to. I did it because I had to. I would have much preferred to be able to go to work, do my job excellently, take care of my team, and come home. We don't necessarily always want to talk about our experiences. Our experiences can sometimes be traumatic. And when you are speaking to somebody that you don't necessarily trust, or even worse, somebody that you do trust, and then their response is questions your experience, that can be extremely painful. That's not something that a lot of Black people want to go through in the workplace. So I think that the question then is, how do you create a space that people can feel comfortable to be themselves, a safe space for everybody? And I think that is more the framing that we need to look at, because if the space is fully inclusive and differences are celebrated, then Black people won't have any experiences that are horrible to talk about, and we won't need to. We need to focus on leveling the playing ground, making progress visible, transparent, and fair. I mean, like, not just saying we've got a zero bullying policy and then allowing bullies to get away with it. Like, properly doing the work to make sure that the workspace is safe. That's how we make sure that Black people's experiences are better. We make it safe for everybody. We make it fair for everybody, because we don't want special treatment. We don't need to be coddled or given extra. We just want what's fair. Stop the discrimination, remove the obstacles, remove the barriers, and you will see then that we will start to come up and come through the ranks, because all the things that are currently in our way will be removed. That's all we want. We just want the fairness, really. I'm speaking for all Black people, sorry.
No, it's cool, sorry.
So I think we've got another 8 minutes, but we will leave it there. Thank you so much for your time today. I know 90 minutes is a long time when people are so very busy, so we really, really appreciate it. I hope you take the research in. I hope you sit with it for a little while and just kind of think about, you know, what are you going to do to make things better in your organization and in your life in general. Right. Thank you very much.